the associate court judge. You ready to go? Right. I guess my follow-up question would be, what have you done to prepare yourself to take on that role?
And actually, that was the next thing that I was going to get into.
Perfect. Seamless.
It was seamless. So I talked about my personal attributes, talked about some personality traits that I have, and then the next thing that I was going to speak about were the skills that I have. The skills that I have are skills that I have developed over a long period of time. They were not skills that just came about in the last years that I have been practicing law. I have a previous career, as you know. And so, first of all, I am a true leader, and whether a leader is born or made, I mean, I just gave a speech on that in the Oregon Chamber of Commerce, and the debate is going on that. But I have worked very hard on leadership skills, being organized, being able to take an organization or a board or a business or my own business and taking a look at it and on a regular basis looking at what needs to be done to make this board or this business or classroom when I was a teacher more efficient. How can we do this in a way that we still have high quality, and how can we do this in a way that we still have that compassion that we're showing and making sure that we're doing things properly and making sure that we're doing things based on, and as an attorney, based on the rule of law, as a judge, the same thing. And time management skills have always been something that I've worked on continually. I do have a large family, so just managing a household with 6 children can be difficult, to say the least. Managing a classroom when you have teenagers who are thinking of what's going on out there, and this is very distracting when you have such a beautiful view, being able to focus and help students to focus and managing that time. And then as an attorney, managing my time. I have a very busy practice. I'm very involved in the community, very involved in community as the business community, the community at large with the Chamber of Commerce. I'm very involved in organizations that benefit the community. I am immediate past chair of PACE Center for Girls and still have a very close relationship with them. I've been very involved with pro bono work with Community Legal Services of Mid-Florida, both in their legal clinics, taking on indigent clients, and also presenting to the public on various topics. And I serve as a guardian ad litem in the courts in the Judicial Circuit, both in Flagler and Volusia County, taking on lots of pro bono cases just for people that I know that haven't gone through Community Legal Services or through the court. And I've also served as an attorney ad litem pro bono for guardianship and guardian advocate cases. Having done all this and still having a family and a very busy practice requires an incredible amount of time management skills, an incredible amount of organizational skills, and prioritizing what is important. And whenever I get involved in an organization, I look at, okay, this is where we are now. Where do we need to go? What do we need to do to improve the way things are done? Keep what's good and work on improving those things that aren't working. I do that myself. Personally, on an annual basis, I look at myself and, what are the things I've accomplished. I have goals for each year, both personal and professional. And I do that with my business, and it's nice that the Florida Bar offers the Practice Institute, where they have actually a check sheet that you can use for your firm and go through. What are some of the things that you're doing? Where can you improve? Where can you be more efficient? And then I do that on the boards that I've been on and as a leader. And most recently, I am immediate past president, as of yesterday, of the Volusia Flagler Association for Women Lawyers. And that's, I think, a great example of what I'm capable of doing. Great organization, and we had some great procedures in place, some wonderful bylaws, but there were things that needed to be changed because time has passed. And so I worked really hard. I developed a website, we got a logo, we've got a sponsorship program. We were able to get some really good speakers in. May Ann Downs came down and spoke to us. We had Judy Lane come and talk about gender biases and mediation. So we had really strong programming. We started taking credit cards instead of having to, the treasurer's job was tough, and I was a treasurer for 2 years for people, so I know. It was tough because we were doing everything by hand. So we got credit card processing going and developed our website handles, credit cards that handle sending out messages. We've made the processes much more efficient within BFAW. That's what I'm capable of doing. I have the skills, the practice from years of experience, and I've got the education. The MBA, even though I don't practice heavily in business law, the MBA certainly has become very useful in my own practice because it is a business as well as a service, and in the boards that I've been on, and that would certainly be something that I would use those skills and that education if I were chosen by a committee and then by the governor on the bench.
So I have a couple of follow-up questions, kind of unpacking some of the things you said, and I'm happy to be the pot or the kettle on this, but do you think that your community service and your bar activities, eat into your practice and your practice time and your ability to develop clients, and how would you handle that then on the bench with your heavy community involvement?
Right. Well, there are some things that I couldn't do if I were on the bench. So some of the community involvement is fundraising. I mean, that's not something that I would be able to do personally on the bench. As far as in my practice, I've been very successful at starting off as a new attorney, fairly new, when I started the practice with my husband. He is very much an introvert and actually is no longer practicing law. He's much happier in a different profession. And I've been able to build up a successful business starting really from nothing. And I have myself gone out and been on boards and developed relationships with other professionals. And other professionals are not going to trust their clients to you if they don't trust you. So I've been able to do all of that and raise a family. Now, do I do that on a 9-to-5 type of basis? No. I'll be honest with you. I've got 2 young children. I get home, I make sure that they're fed, they're bathed, I spend time with them. And once they're in bed, I'm working. I'm working till 11 o'clock at night most nights. And that's, sometimes I have to get up early. Sometimes I have to work on the weekend. I do, work ethic has been ingrained in me from the time I was a young child. I did not come from a household that had a lot. My mother didn't graduate from high school. My father did graduate from high school. That was the extent of their education, but they really pushed education to me. And I did become educated, as you know, and I did it myself. I had to pay for it myself. Nobody did that for me. And so that required, while I was going to school, I had young children. So it wasn't, this has really been my whole adult life. I've been accustomed to having to do what I need to get done, and if that means that I have to stay up late and do that, then that's what I have to do as a judge. If that means that after my children go to bed, I have to be reading briefs and studying the law and doing some research, that's what I'll have to do. I've never appeared in court unprepared. I've never appeared at a board meeting unprepared. I've never appeared in the classroom unprepared. I mean, that just is totally against my work ethic and how I conduct myself. I would still like to have ties with the community to the extent that I am able to, but I understand that as a judge that there are limits to that, and so I would do what I could. I mean, I know Judge Leah Case, she was one of the ones that when I was on the PACE board, I invited her to the board, and she's serving on the board, but she's limited in some of the things that she can do, and I understand that. So I would do the same thing and making sure that whatever I do is within the limits of what is allowable as a judge.
Wendy, there's a lot of open judicial positions right now. Why did you choose the appointment route as opposed to running for office?
I think that the quality of candidates that you get from an appointment process, there's a screening process there. And quite frankly, I may not make it past this point. I did not last time, but I trust the system. I trust the process. Certainly, it's not to say that an election process is not a good process, but I certainly did not want to get into a position, and sometimes you see this, sometimes you don't. There's lots of personal attacks, and I really didn't want to approach a bench in that manner. And it's just, I'm sort of not really politically minded, and perhaps I need to be a little bit more so. I mean, I keep abreast of what's going on in the world, but I'm just not one to, at this point in my life, I have really no desire to be involved in a campaign. Maybe at another point in my life, that's something that I would consider, but at this point, it's just not something I consider.
But you do realize that at the end of your 6 years, if you were, that you would have to run.
Right, I do realize that, and so at that point, and that was really one of the factors that I considered when I was deciding, do I want to put an application in, because I do know that eventually is going to happen. My hope is that if this committee decides that I'm worthy, and the governor decides and I am on the bench, that I have really done the type of job that there are very few people who would consider running against me, and that if they did run against me, that the public I would have a record that the public could look at and say, Ms. Mara has done a wonderful job and we want her to continue to do so.
You were admitted to practice in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about your experience, your legal experience, your trial work that would set you apart perhaps from the other candidates?
I'm glad actually that you brought that up. I haven't been practicing 20, 30 years like some of the other candidates. Some of the other candidates who are running for office. One man last night was saying he's been practicing for 33 years. I don't have that number of years of legal practice under my belt. However, I also am not fresh out of a bachelor's degree program, going into law school and coming out. I have life experiences. I talked about the skills that I've developed. I have a lot of life experiences and skills and the traits that I have that predates my becoming an attorney. When I became an attorney, I did work for 1 year for another attorney, for Greg Snell. And he placed a lot of confidence in me, and every hearing that we had from the time that I was there, every hearing I went out and I did the hearing. He came with me one time, the first one. After that I was on my own. I did all of the draftings of pleadings. He placed an awful lot of faith in me and trust in me to do that. And I think the reason he did was because I wasn't a 24, 25-year-old coming out of law school with no sense of appropriateness and no sense of work ethic. And he knew that what I was doing, I was going to do the very best that I could. And of course, he, as a managing attorney, made sure that I was not overstepping my bounds. But and then after a year, I went into practice with my husband, and at that point, I was on my own. Now, I was smart enough to realize that I needed mentors. So in different practice areas that I have gone into, I have developed relationships with other attorneys, not necessarily older attorneys, but more seasoned attorneys that I knew I could call if I were in a situation where I felt like, this is what the law says, but I'm not really sure how to handle this. There were people that I would call. Some now are judges, so I can't call them, so I've had to find some other. But I've been really cognizant of that need to, first of all, study the law, study the procedures, and I've learned a lot of areas of law on my own without any guidance, direct guidance. And that would serve me very well on the bench, because as a circuit judge, you don't know where you're going to be. And my idea of service is you go where you are needed. So it may be in an area of practice that I'm familiar with, it may be one that I'm not familiar with, and you better believe I'm going to get myself familiar with that and learn the procedures and learn the rules and learn the case law that I need to be an effective judge.
On question 24, you have 0 jury trial experience. How would you handle that? If you get on the circuit bench, you're going to have that's a big part of the job.
Right. And just as I've approached anything, I would approach, if a jury trial were, and circuit bench, a jury trial is going to come before you. Before that ever happened, I would make sure that I've done the research. I've read, and I do anyway. I mean, trial skills is very important to me. I've taken advantage of every opportunity that I have had. I've gone to the needed trial skills seminar and done the trial skills seminar. I attend trial and I observe, and I try to attend trials where I know that people who are practicing are very well respected. I have taken advantage of any opportunities through the Volusia County Bar when they had the trial. Actually, I helped to formulate a trial skills, 3-part trial skills seminar, and really it was for selfish reasons, because I want to have those trial skills, not just for in the event I become a judge, but for my own benefit. Now, it just so happens the areas of practice that I am in, family law and probate, we don't have jury trials, we have bench trials. But I would do whatever I had to do to become educated, to prepare myself, to go through the process of learning and observing how the correct procedures for picking a jury and all through the trial process.
Your application mentioned there was a bar complaint, but the Florida Bar found no PC, but it was appealed. Do you have any update on that?
They were supposed to meet last month, and I don't know if they didn't have enough cases to look at, I don't know what reason. I was assigned Mr. Upchurch, and there was another attorney I was assigned, I was told to contact them right away, which I did. When I spoke with Mr. Upchurch, he was a little confused as to why I was sent this way. And the only thing that he could guess is and it wasn't a client who made a bar complaint, it was the client's mother. The client was deceased, it was sort of an odd thing. But she had alleged that I had written a refund check from my operating account and not from my trust account. So I did provide the grievance committee with a copy of the bank statements showing it's a trust account. And, my personal integrity is so important to me, and I can't tell you how I'm getting emotional about it, and I don't mean to, but that has really hit me to the core, because have always tried throughout my life to do the very best that I can, and I always am over cautious about making sure that I am very careful to be ethical and do what I'm supposed to do. And so when that happens and you out of the blue get a bar complaint, it really shook me. And this has been going on for over a year, and of course, business is business, I have to go on, but I will be happy when that's resolved, and I don't expect for it to go beyond the grievance committee.
Thank you.
Wendy, I have one question. Look at your tax return. What is your opinion of Obamacare?
I got hit pretty hard this past year.
Yeah.
I don't know that this is the appropriate forum to talk about that, but personally, I did get hit pretty hard with having to pay that back, and it is what it is. But there have been times, quite frankly, at one point in my life, I struggled as a single parent of 4 children, and I had to take Medicare. I mean, you do what you have to do, but thank God I'm not in that position anymore, and I've worked hard. Yes, that has.
Wendy, thank you. We appreciate it very much.
Thank
We will let you know by the end of the day.
I appreciate
Okay.
it. Have a good day.
Well, the excitement is over, at least. So
That's for sure.
we think.
Thank you.